Good afternoon, everyone. We will be starting exactly in the next few minutes, and as we are waiting for others to join. Thank you. A very good afternoon and a warm welcome from Kalaam Telecom. My name is Ahmed Akbar from the Corporate Sales Department, and I will be opening today's session. Our speakers have lined up a very insightful session on moving workload to AWS in a very simplified story. Before I move on, kindly note, if you have any questions during the session, please feel free to write them down in the Q&A window, and our speakers will address them towards the end. Also, towards the end of the session, you will find a feedback from the link in your chat window. Upon submission, you will get a chance to win an exciting e-gift vouchers, which you can use them to shop in your local favorite brand. The winner will be announced separately via email. Without a further ado, I will quickly take you through the journey of Kalaam Telecom. So Kalaam Telecom has been founded in 2005, and launched as a first alternative telecom operator. Kalaam has been over 15 years experience in the market and has been recognized as the leader in disruptive solution. In 2014, Kalaam have acquired two companies, Lightspeed Communication and NGNS. And in 2016, we have been as an international presence in London, UAE, KSA, and Kuwait. In 2017, we had a managed innovative solution, which we were the first telecom who have introduced SD-WAN. And in 2017, we have acquired a company called Tawasul Telecom. And in 2020, our biggest innovative is that we are working on a Kalaam network optical transit to connect our own fiber to Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Kalaam Telecom Strength is that we have over 3,000 plus corporate and business customer base. We are presented in 5 global offices, which is London, Kuwait, UAE, and KSA, and Bahrain. We have a great international partnership with most of the telecoms. We are 130 plus employees. We have a very great team and a qualified cloud experts. We have introduced our managed solution offering to our clients. The Kalaam network transit, optical transit that will be finished in 2020, and our data center is a PCI DSS compliance. Since 2005, Kalaam has been providing a superior service and a value to our customer and have created a long-standing relation and customer satisfaction. And we have got awarded as the fastest growing telecom in 2018, Best Telecom Solution Provider in 2019, Best Managed ICT Service Provider in 2019, and Best Enterprise of the Year in 2019, the fastest growing enterprise business solution in 2020. Kalaam Regional Managed Services. Kalaam have managed internet, voice, global and local data connectivity, data center and SMS services, managed cloud, private and public cloud, managed communication and collaboration services, managed integrated SD-WAN service, and managed cyber security. We have our data center in Bahrain. The primary is in Al Muayyad Tower, and the secondary is in the GCCIA in Jasra. We have 2 data centers in the UAE, in Smart Hub Etisalat and Equinix Data Center. And Kuwait, our data center is in our subsidiary company, Tawassul Telecom. Kalaam Network Optical Transit, which we will be connecting Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Saudi through our own private fiber network. And we can connect you to all the other countries as well. Some of our references in the banking sectors: PNB Paribas, American Express, AUB, Invescorp, Taqa'ud. In the hospitality segment, Le Meridian, Fraser Suite, Laguna Beach, Sofitel, The Grove Resort, and Ibis Hotel. In the education sector, we have Rafa Views School, AMA International University, Ibn Khaldun National School, Abdul Rahman Kano School, Modern Knowledge School, and Multinational School. In the government sector, have Ministry of Culture, Tender Board, Central Informatic Organization, and Ministry of Education. And then in engineering segment, Ramses Engineering and Havelock. Kalaam have launched a digital summit series in 2020, and we keep on doing webinars with our new solutions. Now I want to invite Mohammed Yassin, our cloud specialist at Kalaam Telecom, to brief us on Kalaam Managed Cloud Solution. And thank you.
Thanks, Ahmed. Good afternoon, everyone. And once again, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and attending Kalaam's cloud webinar. So I think, Ahmed, you need to stop sharing your screen so I can start sharing the screen. Yeah, thank you. So my name is Yassin, and I at Kalaam, along with my team, help our customers embark their cloud and digital transformation journey. So basically what I will be covering in the next few minutes, which has been given to me, would be the reasons why customers and businesses are actually choosing cloud. Okay, the power of cloud, by giving you some live examples. Yeah, what kind of services we at Kalaam, have to offer to our customers, and why should a customer really consider us, consider us as a cloud service provider. So there are a couple of reasons why businesses actually are looking to shift to cloud, and one of the most prominent reason is cost effectiveness. Right? With cloud, what generally would happen is you would change your CapEx investment to an OpEx investment, thus helping you, reserve the cash and only spend in terms of what you use and pay as you go kind of a model. And that's one of the main reasons why businesses today are considering, to going to the cloud. Secondly, it being in the capability of it being agile. So that basically means every business today would want to have a, faster reach to the market, which, and to be able to serve the customer and to be able to grab more of the market share. So with cloud, that, that agility really comes in as compared to your traditional on-prem, where you would probably take around anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks of of getting your hardware stack in, then the software and getting it ready, and then probably deploying it out. So that is quite there's a huge delay as compared to a few minutes, wherein you will be able to be up and running and be able to reach out to your customers. Cloud is indeed scalable. You can scale in, you can scale out based on your requirement whenever you want with just merely, so to say, a click of a button, right? As compared to your traditional on-prem infrastructure, where either you would be buying too much, which will have the reserve capacity sitting there and doing nothing, which is your money, or you have been buying too less, wherein you will not be able to accommodate the load of the customers or your team, when they want to use the applications and so on and so forth. So cloud is definitely, and one of the key USPs of a cloud is its capability of being highly scalable. Secure. Now, we all know that this is kind of an interesting, and it's a very deep topic to be speaking about. Given the time limit, we will not be able to do so. But in terms of security, let me just touch base. We are talking about the giants like AWS, and where cloud is the core, in terms of to the business, and that is what they do, right? They live and breathe and drink cloud. So security is of utmost importance to them, and they make sure that cloud is completely secure. Now, be it any of the public clouds, or be it in terms of our Kalam's own private cloud, right? So it is completely secure as compared to how secure a customer's, an SME or enterprise customer would have in terms of, their own data center, because these data centers, the cloud data centers, right? Public cloud, the AWS cloud data centers are highly secure. We're talking about all kind of compliance, be it SOC 1, SOC 2, HIPAA, ISO, right? Any compliance which is required by the country. So they are taken care of. So it is definitely one of the highly secure infrastructures. Of course, we have something called a shared security and responsibility model, but again, that probably we could take it separately after the session. And again, in terms of the capability to be, innovate. Now with cloud, with public clouds like AWS, the capability basically for innovate skyrockets. There are services which you, as a customer, as a business, had to create. It would take time, but AWS has made it readily available, be it IoT, be it machine learning, be it artificial intelligence. So all you have to do is you just need to pick the services up, use and pay for only what you use, thus, which is a fantastic thing for any company, any business, any startups to innovate. Just to give you a quick thought, functional areas of adoption where most of the people are using cloud. I'm talking about organizations who think they are not on the cloud. They are using cloud in one form or the other, be it from an infrastructure perspective, emails, security, CRMs, collaborations, databases, etc. And we at Kalam, I know we are completely, I would say, on cloud, wherein we have our ERP on the cloud, we got our emails, we got our storages, we got our backups. All these things are on the cloud. Our website is running on AWS infrastructure. So we not only tell the customers in terms of, or guiding them in terms of their cloud journey, but we also practice what we preach. So we have our infrastructure also on the cloud. And besides all the reasons which is shown on my slide, one of the catalysts which has really accelerated the adoption of cloud is the pandemic we are in right now. So by now, companies who were not even thinking of being able to, or thinking of even going on the cloud, but now since most of them had to work from home, and we are, a good number of percentages still working from home, that's the time they kind of really understood that how would cloud really help add value in times like this. So that also has been a catalyst. And believe it or not, we have been, as Kalam, we have been working from home for around 5 months, and there's absolutely no hitch or glitch in terms of the way we operate and and we serve our customers and as a team. It has been fantastic and has been smooth. Coming to the power of cloud, that all is kind of good, but there are scenarios and situations where you actually really understand the power of cloud. And one such example is Be Aware app for all the audience which are from Bahrain, I'm sure they kind of know what Be Aware app is. It was an initiative from the government when the COVID-19 broke out that they would want to launch an app which will not only help them identify the case, but also save lives, right? And believe it or not, it was launched in 7 days, right? And as soon as it was launched, from the day it was launched till now, we're talking about close to 900,000 customers who are actually using the app, and this was only possible because of the cloud infrastructure. Similarly, the ways businesses are able to adapt to the COVID and the pandemic which is going on, right? And this is technically will be the new, as they say. So in terms of the way we are doing shopping, we are doing purchasing in terms of the retail. Now everything is on the cloud, and back then it was not so much probably the percentage, but now businesses are looking into it and they're able to scale in, scale out because the power of cloud. Right, and same goes for the education sector, where it's still students are studying from home, and this wouldn't be possible without the cloud infrastructure, be it SaaS or infrastructure as a service. Now, one of the fantastic examples is Netflix, right? Everyone knows Netflix, not a new player in the game, right? Though Netflix was born in the cloud, but during pandemic, right? Netflix has seen a massive growth, and we're talking about close to 7 million new subscribers, out of which majority are from Europe and Middle East, right? And this power for them to scale, right? And it was very much only possible with having the being on cloud. So that is the power of cloud. They could scale up. So that basically means a lot of revenue. So we're talking about the amount of growth they had is 27%, right? Higher than 2019, which translates into a $5.76 billion in revenue. And this exactly is happening in the food industry, where people are, the businesses are going online for customers to be able to purchase order food online, and so on and so forth. Again, just trying to illustrate out here the power of cloud, without which on a traditional infrastructure, this wouldn't have been possible. Now, in terms of what we at Kalaam have to offer, we at Kalaam would want to be known to our customers as enablers, right? Someone who enables the customers, help get onto the digital transformation, the cloud journey. So we offer two kind of clouds to our customers, right? Because every cloud has its own uniqueness to it, and depending on the case studies and the customer vertical we have. So we have public cloud and we have private cloud, and in public cloud we offer AWS and Microsoft Azure, and in private cloud we have our own private cloud which is powered by Wanago. So this is the cloud offering which we offer to our customers. And what exactly do we do in terms of the cloud space? We do anywhere from consulting, designing, migrating, deploying, managing, and connecting a customer, right, to the cloud, right? So we do technically complete end-to-end stack. Now, think of it as, why should someone really consider Kalaam in the first place, right? We have a major partnership with cloud providers. We have an excellent vendor ecosystem, certified engineers, compliant data centers, localized support. We have 24/7 NOC, excellent customer references. And above all, a cloud story is never complete without connectivity. And who better than an ISP like ourselves, who can do this, where we provide complete end-to-end. When we say end-to-end, from consulting all the way to the connectivity. Yeah. So here are a few of our references, in terms of some very big names who we are serving. We have given them various kind of services on cloud. For instance, Al United Bank, we have given them half a gig of Direct Connect, which is the connectivity for AWS. We have done Direct Connect for IFCO, and we have Ramses Engineering running on our private cloud. We have Fetcher on a Direct Connect perspective. We have Ibn Nafis Hospital. So this is basically just to give you a few, just in terms of, this is not something new or the first time we are doing. We have been doing this for quite a good number of years right now. So we have very good customer references, and we can definitely help a customer plan out his entire digital transformation. So that was it from my end. I would like to hand it over to Stephen Mustafa, who is our Senior Partner Solutions Architect for the MENA. Stephen, over to you.
Thank you, sir. All right. So let's just stop sharing so I can start sharing.
Yep.
Right on. I'm assuming we can actually see. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mustafa, and I'm the Senior Partner Solutions Architect for MENA. It means I actually help organize the technical part for partners in the Middle East and North Africa, all the way from Morocco to Oman. And it's my pleasure to be here this afternoon. So very quickly, just give you a quick brief and overview of the journey to the cloud, the benefits of the cloud, and options for running things in the cloud. And the really important part for me is actually into the example journey. So why would you want to reach your cloud, business to your cloud? You're primarily trying to migrate to free up resources, or perhaps adopt modern application development practices and whatnot. The point behind it really is you have to have this compelling event, and a compelling event can come in different ways for your organization. And there's several business drivers, of course, that come in. Security is a very big part of it. Being able to try to expand relatively fast and so on. And it comes in various formats. And the point behind it here is there are various reasons that come in to showcase why this is a good reason. Cost reduction is an excellent example. It's a wonderful door opener for us. And this is true around the world. But at the same, there are other reasons that are very valid. Data center consolidation is another one. Actually improving your security posture is another one, and so on. Now, to continue that thread when talking about cost savings that come in directly from moving to the cloud. AWS, Amazon Web Services, we're a global organization. And as such, we do have a practice actually that looks into how organizations have moved to the cloud and what their success stories were and what sort of cost experiences they've had. So I've cherry picked this specific slide here for information. And we're talking about how AWS actually does reduce costs. So the graph on the left is fairly interesting. Generally speaking, we do see an average of 19% of infrastructure cost reduction by just simply moving to AWS. And we're not talking about any consumption of any specialized services. It's just simply a lift and shift. And we will talk about that one in a second. Now that's purely on the infrastructure, but you're actually seeing more, nearly 30%, 27.4%, when you see that because the cost of spending is not just simply the hardware that you're using to lift and shift, but it's actually 60% of that goes towards the actual people spend. Meaning, you actually have to do a lot of training and whatnot, and actually maintain all that overhead that's coming in from running all these different services that you have currently right now that actually end up running your business. And so there's a very big, non-inconsiderable drop in expenses once you actually shift over to AWS. Now, to continue with the last slide on the marketing part here, AWS, like I said, is a global infrastructure, and we're available in 24 geographic regions. In the GCC, the closest one that we have is in Bahrain, and Kalaam has a direct connection to that AWS data center, region, I should say, which actually means there's a physical cable tying our region to their own data centers. But suffice it to say that if you had ambitions to growing outside the region anywhere in the world, you're more than welcome to, and we actually will help and support that. All right. Now, I'm an engineer, so let's talk about some interesting engineering facets here. How to actually move to the cloud. Well, we refer to the 6 R's. This interesting infographic is actually from my GC, and it talks about, we'll get into the R's here, but this is a bit too complicated for a quick explanation. So let's get down to it, okay? The very first one here is rehosting. Rehosting is just simply a lift and shift. You grab your material as it is right there, and you move it with as little change as possible. Practically nothing for all intents and purposes. And you're just simply hosting it at AWS. Replatforming is very similar to rehosting. It's lift, tinker, and shift. So you're doing some minor changes on there. So for example, in comparison with rehosting it, you're actually now not simply taking advantage of your database that you had previously on premises. You're actually using RDS, for example. The rest of this application, the core of it, has not changed. But now you're starting to take advantage of some of the services that are available to you from AWS, and which are cloud native in their nature, and you're actually starting to facilitate your own transition into this cloud world. Repurchasing is fairly simple. You're just simply buying a new license. You're not changing anything. Refactoring, now this is an interesting one. Refactoring, also referred to as re-architecting. That's when you really roll up your sleeves and get down to it and really change your application. And this actually, we're referring to the absolute core, and you're starting to consume more and more services that are more native to AWS, and it's moving away from the original design that you had. Retire, very clear. Thank you, application server. We were done. You did us very well back in the past. We no longer need you. We have better options right now, or options that make more sense to the new now as we understand them. Retain is well, at first sight, it means, you know, actually maintaining the status quo. You're not really changing anything. However, retain, I have found here at AWS, it actually comes for clients. It actually means, no, I will come back and revisit this. Right now, I don't have the time or appetite to change much in it, but it does mean I will come back to it. With that, let's go to the example journey that we were talking about. This is the interesting one. I'll be spending the bulk of my time on these here. So let's talk about the original application architecture that we were talking about. It's not just simply an application. It's the entirety of we're looking at from a data center perspective. And this is simplistic, but it's reasonable. So you'd have your own clients, whether they're mobile clients or just external clients, going through a firewall, approaching their web servers that are typically hosted in a DMZ. Your corporate data center that is actually hosting databases of various sorts and sizes. You have your own storage in there, whether it's NFS or NAS or what have you. And then you have your archives there as tape storage. Now, this is also being consumed on the other side by your own office, whether it's accounting, sales, and your own IT and HR and whatnot. It can get, of course, much more complicated. But the point is not in the complication. The point is with the messaging of how we'd be moving everything here. So I will simply focus on this part. We're talking about some of the web servers and the databases and the disk storage. And just as an example, by the way, and I'm simplifying it on purpose, just to show you how, you know, never mind the details, but like unnecessarily so. I mean, they're there, of course, they're important, but we're looking at how we can actually transition. So with that, let's talk about rehosting. To rehost, really, I find the easiest way, because water always runs downhill. The easiest way to do this is to actually just start with the absolute basics. An instance for me here is the equivalent of VM. This VM is representative of my web servers that we had on premises, and then I had my Amazon RDS database, right? So it's great, it's perfect. This is running in an availability zone. I could have gone the extra mile of adding more complications to the diagram itself, specifying that there is a WAF, like a firewall involved here, and you had your VPN gateways and so on. But it's okay to make the assumptions that this instance already has the correct disks attached to it and so on and so forth. And I have already predefined my automated backup mechanisms and stuff. So for all intents and purposes, please assume that this is there. It's just a matter of us simplifying the diagrams. Now, this is a single instance of like a web server, and this is a single RDS instance again. Great, perfect, so it runs, that's wonderful. But that's not exactly the whole story, right? Let's expand on that. Data is king in any world, and everybody should know this. We do a lot to actually protect our data and actually be able to serve it in a timely manner. In this case, I've gone ahead and created what we refer to as a multi-AZ, a master-slave configuration for my database here. And I put this slave in a different subnet, in another private subnet, both unreachable from the internet, the world outside. It's only reachable by traffic internally, because nobody on the outside world has any reason to access my database. My web server, however, does. And they're in a public subnet. That web server is in a public subnet because that is reachable. However, you'll notice I actually put in an application load balancer. And the reason is because one instance is not enough. I need to have multiple instances, but I don't know how many instances to have. One of the biggest pain points we had when hosting application servers or web servers, what have you, on premises, is that you're either having too little or too much. Yassine mentioned this. This is what we refer to as right sizing. Now, for us, it's easy. You define something called an auto-scaling group. From the name, it's fairly simple. You define the metrics by which you decide your server would scale. And then depending on the workload pressure, which actually affects that metric you refer to, and that metric could be anything from CPU, RAM consumption, incoming requests, so network traffic and so on. That would really be the one that defines how you're scaling out and scaling in. Please understand, I'm actually focusing right now on scaling out rather than scaling up. horizontal scaling versus vertical scaling. I'm not injecting more resources into my instances here. I'm actually creating more instances. And taking away instances as the case may be. That's very granular. You're actually defining how big or how small you're moving in small footsteps rather than one big massive footstep here. So to use an exaggerated example, if I have one VCP instance that is using 2 vCPUs and that's sufficient, a 256 vCPU machine is also sufficient, more than sufficient to handle things. And if my workload pressure increases, I'd be adding more 2 vCPUs. But the 256 vCPU is just one machine. If the workload pressure goes beyond that, I'd have to add a lot more resources just to equate that. Whilst the increase is very minimal on the 2 vCPU instance examples. So that granularity is what we're really looking for. This is great. This is so the diagram, the architecture we're looking at right now is good. That's actually a really good way of scaling, and on basic web services, web servers. I apologize, and it's fine. It's great. It scales automatically. It handles the work pressure. The only thing I've really done on this thing here is actually I've defined the metrics by which my auto scaling group should scale. Great, perfect. So what else can I do to actually improve that? Because I haven't really changed anything from on-premises. I mean, I've gained some, cost reductions. Great, perfect. But what else can I do? So let's talk about refactoring. And this is typically, by the way, this is a normal journey. So this is my architect right now. As we've mentioned, it's servers running on an auto scaling group. But here's the problem that we're seeing is every time we're trying to deploy an application, it's a monumental effort. I mean, it's an actual proper project in and of itself to actually continue the deployment. And God forbid there's something that goes wrong, then you'd have to stop and perhaps roll back. And that in itself is actually an issue. I myself have been a developer for 25 years. So I've gone through the trenches experiencing all this, these tragedies. So many a night I've stayed up really, really late just to see if we can do. Now the change that we're affecting here right now is by something called an elastic beanstalk container. Now, please do not understand this as a container as we understand this on Docker containers. No, this entire concept all around the solid orange line bounding my 2 servers is called an elastic beanstalk container. Yes, there is a change. The change might not be evidence on the diagram here, like just simply other than it being a boundary. But through the use of elastic beanstalk, you've made a fundamental change to the manner by which you're deploying your software. No longer are you at the mercy of making sure that your environment is up and running, and you're basically the environment is forcing you into deploying a specific manner. Okay, now you're on the path of what's referred to as a declarative environment. This is my software, run it. There's a very interesting haiku that we can actually follow. Here's my code, run it on the cloud. I do not care how. That's essentially what you're trying to do with the elastic beanstalk container. It's still using the load balancer, it's still using your databases here, and it's actually taking care of the scalability part. This is when we get to something called blue-green deployments. If it's moving perfectly, that's fantastic, that's great. I'm not changing the way I'm actually writing my code. I'm just changing the way I'm deploying it. What the benefit here is I can actually do push button rollback if something goes wrong or awry. More than that, I can actually define a specific percentage to do what I refer to as A/B testing, which is testing in production. So if I had, I wasn't too sure if I wanted to change what my facets of my application should look like, changing the look and feel perhaps, changing the way things are organized. But I don't want to, I'm not 100% confident yet that I want to push this entirely in production. I have a good feeling about it, but I'm not sure. We're a data-driven organization at AWS, and this is exactly how we do things online. So we channel 5%, 10%, some percentage that makes sense to us. That is going from one application to the same application, but has the different look and feel. And we're collecting all this information, and so on and so forth. And if it works, fantastic. Then I can actually roll it out to the rest of the servers, and then have the servers themselves scale in and out according to workload pressure. If not, then I can simply fail that entire branch and just kill it, and I can move on to something better. The point behind it here is I'm trying to actually focus on creating more my own intellectual property and have it reach my clientele because of their own personal experience and their own requirements for that. So let's continue the story. I've changed, my deployment processes, which is great. So now, that they're fine-tuned, we can actually consider packaging. Packaging here, in this case, is really what's defined by the container. So I've created my application. My application itself would need a little massaging, a little minor changes to actually start working in this container rather than actually being a complete monolith and having this one massive web server and application server plus going on behind the scenes. So each individual icon that we're seeing here is not necessarily just one container. It's probably a collection of containers running together in collaboration that actually performs things. And this is the concept of microservices. So really the portability of containers, it allows us to create many fine-grained deployments at will. And since we're no longer deploying on full EC2 instances, please, if you notice that on the actual architecture, we're actually deploying this on a service called Fargate. We're actually starting to take advantage of services that are cloud native and already running on AWS. I'm breaking away from the history of actually running things on web servers. That's fantastic. Because this is entirely managed, I no longer have to be spending time on managing these servers, designing and building my golden image, and so on and so forth. I'm just defining my container. And if you've worked with container development, any change that you're doing, you're simply changing that one layer or n number of layers that you've changed, and that's it. And now the container is still ready. It's on a container registry. One more added advantage here is of scaling. My workload pressure, and this is a very good problem to have, is that my infrastructure is not catching up to my workload pressure because a lot of people are actually running and rushing and clicking like mad to see my services. An auto-scaling group will scale things in a manner that's feasible, but it still takes minutes, from 1 to 5 minutes. And I've never seen anything more than 5 minutes. And those are for like absolute monsters of servers running, like huge. With containers, I've actually never seen one take more than seconds. And I'm talking some really massive containers here, fairly robust, with like 32 gigs of RAM. And if you've ever worked with containers, that is an absolute brute. It's a monster. So now that our containers are able to actually scale at will, really, really fast, okay, to handle that workload pressure that's still coming in, and we're no longer deploying an EC2 instances we talked about, we've achieved nimbleness. So this nimbleness allows for the mass scaling in and out at will or need. Great, perfect. And any change we can do on the workload is still feasible because we're only dealing with the container level. So it's this fine granularity that we're trying to see. This, by the way, translates directly to a drop in expenses. So to achieve this interesting bit, and by the way, the story is not done. To achieve this, the majority of the work, which has already been dramatically simplified because of the gained experiences of at-will deployments, which is the Elastic Beanstalk, this is a simple, but it's not a trivial activity. But it's a progression. Every step of the way, you're actually learning new things and you're getting there. For all intents and purposes, right now, you've actually achieved a very reasonable application that's actually being hosted online and it's consuming some fair amounts of services. I could have added more to this thing, such as how can we add more logging? How can we add more security here? How can we visualize these logs? Can I use caching? Can I use this? Can I use that? Can I do any sort of CDN on AWS? The answer is yes. But my role here is not to add more complexity. My role is to help you actually achieve things with greatest simplicity. So I'm going to put a stop to our current journey right now, because I mentioned this is a very simple journey. And honestly, I have partners and I have customers who have performed this journey almost exactly as I mentioned it. And we'll see an actual live example in a minute here, across weeks. And I've had some that actually moved it across days. It just really depends entirely on your own appetite and your willingness to actually learn and roll up your sleeves and get to work. And the same thing is also applicable because you're pulling in a partner, a capable partner to actually help you with this. Now, let's talk about some successes here. I could have added more to this one, but I felt this was more than sufficient here because these are some name brands. I was born and grew up in Canada, and I've only been in the region for 5 years. So if I recognize some of these names, you can be fairly sure that they're quite well known. And I tried to pick up some from all around the region. So it's not, I currently am in Dubai, but I picked some from all around the region as much as possible. So we got some from Jordan, we've got some in Bahrain, we've got some in the Emirates and so on, and some in Saudi. And I picked some that from actually different verticals as well. So we've got transportation, we've got retail, we've got government, we've got banking, and then manufacturing at some point, and even media. So I won't go into each one individually here, but what I will do is I will now move on to the actual success story that is the highlight of our conversation and the second focal point for us. Fly Dubai. Fly Dubai, they're interesting, and I picked them because they actually followed a very similar progression to the one I described. And I'm not, I can name the partners that have actually helped Fly Dubai, but Fly Dubai is the focus here. Their challenge was their infrastructure simply would not handle their business operations. They're literally the problem I was describing earlier on. They had more coming requests onto their own websites and their web servers and their applications that are being hosted on these servers, but their seasonal fluctuations would actually come in. So at one point, they'd have 10 times the requirement that they currently have. They couldn't scale to handle that workload, and so their user experience was dipping at that time, and also at the same time they're losing customers. They can't scale to handle that work capacity. They could have handled, and let's just say for the sake of argument, that during the high season they have 10 times the standard requests coming in. They could have acquired 10 times the servers and 10 times the infrastructure. But in the off season, they have now 10 times unnecessary servers just running, keeping lights on, consuming power and cooling and so on. Because it's not just simply a hardware that you're looking at, it's the cooling, the power, the manpower to actually make sure everything's running perfectly well, like a well-oiled engine. So it's completely unnecessary. So their solution, as proposed by AWS and the partner that we had over here, is to actually shift onto AWS. They actually did they did a lift and shift. In their case, they actually used Amazon EC2, the same instance type I was telling you about. And they use ELB, which is the application load balancer. And they're using EBS, the Elastic Block Store, which are the disks I was telling you about. An extra service that they did use, which is called Amazon S3, which is a simple storage service, which is an object store. And it's actually it's probably the most robust object store you know of. It actually is, it provides you with 11 nines level of durability. So it's incredibly powerful and incredibly capable. Now this they did to shift across a few weeks because it's a fairly large organization, fairly conservative at that time. It was their very first experiment in shifting onto something completely new for them, which is AWS in the cloud, right? Now they had one extra advantage. They were one of the first ones to actually use Direct Connect, something that Kalaam is actually capable of offering here. And Direct Connect, from the name, you can actually guess it's actually a cable going between one data center and the other. So that was the solution that came to be. And the benefits that they reap from that is, since they actually moved, their lead times for actually getting new infrastructure dropped down from 10 weeks to a matter of hours, right? Now, they actually have their own, it's actually minutes to actually get the infrastructure, but the requirements on their side, like the internal requisition forms need to be signed and so on, and the testing that they have to do, and so that actually ends up being as hours. But hours for them does not mean, now a server is available. It means this server is now in production and I'm gaining benefit from it. That's the difference. So for them, they can actually launch new services in hours. Previously, that would actually take weeks. And this is the first time that IT was now an actual, they stopped looking at IT as a cost center. It was actually an enabler for product because business is now trying to catch up to IT. So with that, and because of the availability and the disaster recovery that's actually baked into many facets at AWS, they actually pretty much got in a highly available platform that's there to help secure their data and their applications for their customers as they're coming in. Venkat, is the name of Ramesh Venkat is the name of the CIO, and he said by using AWS we can actually launch new services in hours instead of weeks, and this is coming directly for them. And this for us is one of the best ones. A happy customer is a repeat customer, and this is something that we seek for every single one. This is an actual case study that's directly online, and I welcome you to actually go to aws.amazon.com/solutions/case studies. Fly Dubai is the first one, but if you just stop at case studies, you'll see a whole suite of case studies available for you to please look up and visualize, and we're more than happy. We actually take pride in these success stories. And for my sake, I'll stop right there and I open it for Q&A. Though I did have actually one more thing here, which is my own personal thanks for both for Kalaam for hosting this. They're grateful hosts, but at the same time, I do have a call to action for everyone here on the call, please. Do reach out to Kalaam, do reach out to partners, do reach out to AWS, do reach out to Kalaam in specific because they have a direct line to me as well as to other partners in the region and to AWS in its entirety. And we can have a visioning session, show you what the true art of the possible is, and the cases. All right. So Ronald, I'm done my part here, so I'll stop my share.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you, Kalaam.
Thank you so much for taking us through the journey, and especially actually talking about in such a simplified story really helped, and the 6 R's were really informative. Now the floor is open to questions, so if anyone has any question, you can write them down in the Q&A window, which you might see in the bottom tab, and our speakers will address them one by one.
I believe there are 2 questions, and Yasin here, and I believe that's pertaining to Kalaam in general. So the first question by Satya is, please elaborate on iSwap. So Satya, iSwap is our offering of cloud-based email solutions, which is technically a replacement to Microsoft's O365. So it has a fantastic sort of features and it brings its own uniqueness. So probably we can take it and you can take it offline with your account manager, and so we can elaborate you a little further and probably take you through a session where we can show you the strength and the feature set of our platform. And just to let you know, this cloud cluster is in Bahrain, so technically your data still remains in the country, unlike other cloud email providers. So I hope that answers the question. Going to the second question, which is from Sadiq. So he's like, thank you. Thank you, sir, for listening. Yeah, I believe you would like to know the total number of customers Kalaam has on private and public. Sadiq, that information is not right now on top of my head, but we got a very good base of customers, both in the private and public cloud sector. So, and we have some big names which can resonate with Al United Bank, or Fetcher, IFCO, Esterar, which is again a financial services, which I showed during my presentation. So probably we could discuss it later and probably showcase you in terms of what we Kalaam can really do for you and understand the journey which you would want to embark.
Well, thanks, Yasin. We have a few more minutes before we can wrap up the session. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to write them down and we will answer them. We have Stephen from AWS and we have Yasin as our cloud specialist as well. So both of them can answer any of the questions that you may have. Again, if anyone has any questions, we can answer them for you. Well, okay, we will, I see no further questions. So let me quickly tell you that we have a feedback form link, which we have put in your chat windows. You can fill them up, and you can get a chance to win some exciting e-gift vouchers, which you can shop from your local brands. And we will announce those winners separately via email. We also have some upcoming webinars on email and collaboration, which is iSwap, as someone was just asking about iSwap. So please do have a look out on our social media pages, on our website, to register for those webinars as well. We also have next generation branch connectivity, which is SD-WAN, coming up as well. Please have a look out for those, and as well as remote working and security. Now, again, I would like to thank everyone for attending today's Amazon Web Services session, which clearly talked about how simple it could be to move our workloads to AWS. Again, Stephen, thank you so much for that. Yasin, thank you so much as well.
It's my pleasure, and I want to thank everyone as well. Ronald, it's okay. I just wanted to add one more share, just quick
Sure.
share, just because of my contact details.
Sure.
So this is the one. So there we go. So I just want to repeat my thanks to both our host Kalam, and at the same time for all the attendees. Thank you very, very much. Please feel free to reach out to myself or to to Kalam itself, and we'd be more than happy to actually take you through a visioning journey, and you can actually see where you can probably add some. Well, let's see how we can simplify your journey to AWS Cloud. And that's all I have to say for that. I thank you very much again.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much. Again, I would like to repeat that we have a feedback form. If you're interested in any of our cloud services and managed solutions, we can help you. Please fill out those forms, which will also give you a chance to win some e-gift vouchers. Once again, thank you so much to everyone, and the session will end in a few minutes. Thank you so much for joining.